It's always a very good day when I've got a new Gordon Murray Automotive supercar to show you. So while the weather in England is definitely not summertime yet, Gordon's got a car that is. It's his first convertible, the new T.33 Spider. Now, don't worry, the good professor is on his way down. He's going to be joining us a little bit later on. But before Gordon's finished ironing his shirt and joins us, I thought I'd just give you a quick whistle-stop tour and overview of the car, and that way, when Gordon's here, we can do the nerdy, nitty-gritty details. So what can I tell you about it? Well, T.33 Spider, that's interesting. Not T34, not 35, they're not pretending this is an all-new model, but a lot of the car is actually new. I mean, all of the bodywork behind the front wheel is. Look at these buttresses here and a different rear deck, but you still get your snorkel directly connected to a 3.9 litre naturally aspirated Cosworth V12. Bit less power than you get in a T50, but Gordon's very specific. It isn't like the word detuned, this is retuned. This is meant to be a more everyday kind of supercar after all. So you get a bit more torque, a bit more everyday drivability, and only 617 horsepower. I'm sure we'll survive, especially as you'd expect from a Gordon Murray car. It doesn't weigh very much. 1,108 kilos is the dry weight. Yes, that's 18 kilos heavier than the coupe. I bet he was furious about that, but having removable roof panels, one each side that fit cleverly in the nose, yeah, it's got to go somewhere. What else can I tell you? Well, there's going to be 100 units, and if you want one of those, I'd be very, very quick if I were you, because these Gordon Murray cars don't tend to hang around. And this is our best look, actually, so far at a T33 interior, a Gordon Murray car where the steering wheel isn't in the middle. This is because, again, meant to be slightly more usable, a bit more for your everyday commute. And, well, the usual Gordon Murray trademarks are still shining through. It's very minimalist, it's simplicity, it smells nice, there's a great sense of quality, and there's no touchscreen, and there's no haptic touch-sensitive controls either. So we're big fans of that. There's even a manual handbrake lever, but my favourite manual lever is the gearbox. And that's the first thing I'm going to ask Gordon about, I think, when he gets there. So you might remember when we showed you the T33 Coupe, they announced they were going to do a flappy paddle automatic. And now they've announced that they're not. So that must make this, the Spider, well, the first car in recent memory where the automatic has so little demand that they're not going to bother. This is a manual gearbox only zone. And actually, before the good professor does get here, I just want to share a slight issue I've got with this car, you see, with this treatment for the Spider. Under here is very possibly the greatest engine of all time. We don't know yet, we've not driven a car with this Cosworth V12, we hope to very soon. But it does seem a little bit of a shame to me that you've got this incredible power plant, and if you buy the Spider, no glass. You can't see it. You can't admire the handiwork of Cosworth and Gordon Murray. So, yeah, we need to check what Gordon's thinking was on that as well, because I bet you there's a good engineering reason for it. So here we have the man himself, Gordon. Thank you very much for your time, as always. We haven't been to see a Spider of yours before, a convertible, and when I first saw the car, I thought, is a Spider really in the Gordon Murray ethos? Traditionally, they're less aerodynamic, they're heavier, they are slightly more compromised. So that's everything that you rally against. Why have you decided to add a convertible to your lineup?
There's a couple of answers to that. Firstly, personally, I've never really been an open car person. I have got some.
Yeah.
My Healy Sprite is an open car, but you couldn't get that as a fixed head anyway. So, and I've got a Porsche 550 Spider, and recently I bought a couple more Spiders as well. So that's the personal. So I'm being converted, if you like. Mm-hmm. However, from the point of view of 33, we said right from the beginning we would do 3 variants of this platform. Yeah. We launched a coupe last year, and it was pretty obvious that, you know, if you look at the market for these sort of cars, you should do some sort of open car. But you're absolutely right, they are heavily compromised. So we worked right from day one. So we actually designed this alongside the coupe, and we worked right from day one to make sure those compromises were as minimum as they could be.
Yeah, I mean, immediately you look at this and you think, well, there's no way surely that you can fold the roof away into that. So you've gone for a manually removable roof? Is that just purely because of weight, or is there aerodynamics or what else?
It's mainly weight, yeah. And the reason why I didn't want to do the typical 2 bumps behind the driver, the sort of rollover bar bits, if you like, is because aesthetically I don't like them, because the outside has to be a surface, they're inevitably offset to the centre of the occupant.
Yeah.
Oh, I just hate that look. It just aggravates me.
Right.
Secondly, if you have a full rollover bar like this, the aerodynamics are much, much better. And we wanted to retain the spoiler on the rear. So the airflow over this helps that work. That was
and you've still got, of course, a T.33 trademark, I think we'll see, particularly when the car's running, is this fixed snorkel, the air intake, which will obviously move independently, I guess, of the rest of the car when you
it will
flip the throttle, which should be a hell of a feature. But I'm interested in how, and I was worried about this when I first saw the car. You have potentially in here one of the greatest engines of all time, but you can't see it if you buy the Spider. Why is this not glass?
I agonised over that.
Right.
And actually, when we did the 50, we learnt a lesson, because initially the 50 was all about seeing the engine. It's just when we got the engine, looking at drawings is one thing, and actually getting the physical engine. The cam covers are only just over 400 mil from the sump. So whatever you do, the engine's down the bottom of a canyon.
So you need a sort of magnifying glass on the back.
And of course, with the Spider, to try and introduce a little artificial glass panel, I just thought was a bit just not us, really.
Bit of an affectation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, you're adding weight, you're adding complexity, and to see it, you'd have to lean right over the car and look into it. So I gave that up at a really early stage.
And of course, normally when you do a roadster, you chop the top off, you're going to wreck the rigidity. We've become used to these cars with carbon tubs not needing too much extra strengthening and girders. So given you've only increased the weight by 18 kilos, I presume this hasn't needed too much adjustment?
Not really, no, because we considered the Spider when we were designing the coupe, and we designed for worst case. So our minimum targets for torsion were the Spider targets.
Yeah.
So whatever the coupe is, over and above that is a bonus, if you like.
So if someone was lucky enough to have a T33, to have the set, to have coupe and Spider, if they're jumping between them day to day, they probably wouldn't notice a difference in the drive.
You wouldn't, not from a vehicle dynamics point of view.
You haven't had to adjust the suspension for different cars?
No, not with 18 kilos. No, it would make no difference at all. Well, the thing that's been really good is our iStream Ultralight, which is a combination of carbon with the honeycomb panels. So the central bit, which really makes the difference, of course, is the rocker, what you're left with when you open the door. And with Ultralight, it's so easy to adjust that, just in the layout thickness and the profile and the skin thickness on either side of the core of the panel.
And also, while we're here, we should just say this isn't an engineering thing. I think this is just a bit of supercar theatre, but you've made the rear window retractable.
Yes.
Is that purely just so you can get closer, more intimate with the engine noise?
Yeah, well, once again, it comes back to our complete central ethos. Whatever we do needs to be the best driving experience in its sector. So if you're going to go Spider, you really want everything. So you can choose. On this, the side glass drops completely, 100%. The roof panels come out. You've got the air intake just above your head.
Yeah.
And for the final bit of theatre is you drop the glass and you've got a fully immersive Spider experience.
I always think that, particularly for Brits, we're not blessed with the greatest weather in the world. You have to take your chances with getting the roof off. At least if you can drop the rear window, then whatever the weather, you stand a chance of getting a bit more engine noise, even in our summer.
Yep.
Right, now this is our best look we've had yet at a T33 interior, isn't it? So shall we pop the door open and have a look inside?
Sure.
Obviously, the first thing that will strike people, this being a Gordon Murray car, shock horror, the steering wheel's not in the middle. But of course, this is designed to be 2 seats, designed to be slightly more usable, easier to get in and out of. But I like the fact you've still kept the highlights to say, this is the driver's seat. This is the most important one. So how much does this take effectively a T50 and just cut one seat off? And how much is this sort of lessons learned and a different approach, do you think?
From an ethos point of view, it is T50. So, you know, the driving perfection, the driver focus thing is exactly the same. So we still carry the same primary and secondary control sort of ethos. No touch screens, everything's analog. Wherever we can, it's tactile and rotary. No column stalks again. And everything clustered around the driver. The poor passenger gets absolutely nothing but a grab handle.
Which they're probably going to need. Yeah.
So,
no, thank you for building a car without touchscreens and touch sensitive controls, because they're only getting worse, not better. And I just think this, to me, I've never sat in one, I've not driven it, but I look at this car and I think I could operate that. I stand a chance of knowing how all this works.
It's pretty intuitive when you're jumping in a 50 for the first time, which is pretty much, as we said, the same as this. It's pretty intuitive, really. Everything's clustered around the steering wheel. And the steering wheel itself, once again, thin grip and, you know, nice feedback. It's another carbon wheel, so it's nice and light, very low inertia.
Now, all these are Gordon Murray trademarks, and there is literally a Gordon Murray signature on the transmission lever just here, or just to the right of it. Talk to me about the transmission, because when we first met the T.33, you basically said, this is more my everyday car, I'm going to have to do an automatic.
You're going to embarrass me again, aren't you?
I don't mean to embarrass you, but I think that there was 2 people, wasn't there, out of the run of 100 T.33
I think it was, to be fair, I think it was 3 or 4, but 2 of them had a problem with their legs.
Right,
so they
were medically unable to drive a manual.
Yeah.
But I now read that not only is T.33 Spider going to be manual only, but the T.33 Coupe will be as well.
Yeah.
So can you just talk us through why you've had the change of heart and why Gordon Murray is now manuals only?
I have to take 100% of the blame, because I just thought, you know, there's 3 variants of this car off this platform. That's 300 cars. You know, T50 is a completely different story. That's our halo car, will always be our halo car. And that had to be as extreme as we could get, you know, and that was never going to be anything but manual. But when I came to think about 300 cars, you know, 3 100 variants, if you like, I thought we better we better appeal to a wider audience, and we better do a paddle shift box. And we got a few million quid down developing it. And of course, to get the economics of that, you don't need to be a mathematician. If only 3 people order one and it's cost you 3 million quid, it's £1 million option. So. Yikes. So we had to drop it, and we wrote to everybody with the coupe, and they were very understanding. I have to say that everybody was very understanding. We didn't have anybody complain. We obviously gave the people that didn't want a manual, we gave them their money back, we gave them their deposit back.
I see.
So I didn't want to go down the same route with this.
Yeah.
And in a way, this is even a more involving motor car with the open top. So, you know, I don't think we would have sold any paddle shifts with this at all.
It's quite nice that it's a manual-only zone. I think it would have been the greatest of ironies if the most collectible, rarest Gordon Murray car of all time ended up being one of only 3 or 4 automatics ever made. I think it's better that we've got this stick shift.
But the mistake I made was actually, I should have stopped and thought about what we're selling. You know, we're selling the involvement of driving a motor car, the whole experience, you know, immersing somebody in driving the motor car. And then to offer a paddle gearbox goes against that, really. Yeah. So it's, as I say, entirely my fault.
I think people already enjoy the fact, though, that you know, car companies are so often say we don't make mistakes, everything was planned like this from the start. You've effectively admitted we tried something, we spent some money on it, it's ultimately not worked out, but we're now sticking more to our principles. Yeah. I think that's really sweet.
I mean, the only redemption is we are using a version of that on 50S. But of course, the development would have been a very different route.
Yeah.
We already had a running gearbox in a Lotus Evora doing tests with it for 33.
Right.
And we had to scrap all that too.
Ouch.
But for 50S, it has got that instantaneous.
Yeah, so if you want to be on the track, then you've got
But, you know, that's got a racing gear change, so it's very, very fast. That wouldn't have done for this anyway. We had to redevelop it all for this car.
Yeah. Right, I won't teach you any more about the gearbox. I'll talk about one of your favourite things, storage. Because all Gordon Murray cars have always got very cleverly packaged storage solutions. I can see that there's that space under the armrest there and space in the centre here, so we've got that. But let's just talk about the extra storage in this car, because somewhere in here there's about 290 odd litres, isn't there?
295.
So that's a hatchback's worth of storage. Can you please show me where?
I will show you. But first of all, the philosophy, because it isn't just about having storage. we try to take away, we love people to use these cars. And when we look at our customer profile for 50 and for 33, we reckon a good 80 to 90% of the people are going to use the car, which is fantastic for a supercar. You know?
I'll be doing a daily service if they do, because anyone's in earshot, because it's going to sound pretty magnificent.
So anything that detracts from wanting to drive the car or wanting to use the car, we try and design out of the car. And one of those is you don't want to have the car following you with your luggage in it. You know, so you need to take it yourself. That was the driving story behind the Luggage.
Lovely, let's see it. What do we call these? The bat wings, the mantis claws? I feel like these need a name, because they're pretty eye-catching.
They do, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, this is not your normal boot. It's not often that the storage on a car is really notable, but yeah, here we are. Well, that's half the luggage. I presume there's one identical on the other side.
Yeah, there's 2 suitcases each side, yeah.
Now, immediately I think super high revving V12, presumably quite thin wall, valuable luggage. How the heck do you manage the heat and vibration and anything else?
You have something in the handbook that says no chocolate and no flowers.
Does it really? So this is the worst car possible for Valentine's Day? No chocolate or flowers.
We obviously have heat shielding on the inner wall. The F1 suffered from the same thing, you know, and 50 will as well. We have heat shielding, but it does get warm in there, so you wouldn't put your ice cream from the supermarket, no.
Noted. So if we close this up and then we head to the front, there's a little bit extra storage, isn't there?
Yep.
Before we get there, actually, when I first saw the car this morning, I thought that the actual open gap here did look a bit small, and I worried that people are going to be hanging off this to try and get in. Is this just a quirk of the model we're looking at today?
It is, yes. Since, I mean, obviously you have to freeze the design for these cars many, many months ago, and subsequently this gap's getting much bigger for production.
Okay.
It doesn't change the look of the car at all, but it's
windscreen
more open,
shifted forward.
Yep.
Okay, now let's come and have a look at this extra boot. Here we are. I appreciate the irony that it's 11,000 RPM, 11,100 RPM supercar, and we're talking about luggage, but I know it is an obsession of yours now. So the roof panels will fit in here a treat.
Yep.
That's great news. And I read something about there is an interior specification inspired by your notable taste in tropical shirts. So if I wanted to go for something like I've prepared earlier, just here, yeah, can you explain what you're offering as an option inside the Spider, please?
Well, we've developed with the team, with Kev Richards and the team, we've developed 4 sort of themes, colour themes, and one of them is inspired by my Troppo shirts.
So this is your
so we could do that for you. We could do that for you. Yeah.
I mean, this is a nice number, isn't it? Gordon's known for his jukeboxes, for his lightweight car collection. I don't know if you got a number like this in the wardrobe, but yeah, what do we think? Inside? No? Okay. Let's put it down and talk about something a bit more grown up, because I think it's quite an exciting time now, isn't it, for GMA? It really feels like the momentum is building. So let's just have a little state of the union. The T50, they're arriving with customers, well, about now, are they?
Yeah, the production lines actually, we've started producing the cars. They take 5 weeks to assemble, so we're looking probably at the first customer car around May time. And 33, we're well into building the first prototype, and that'll be testing and running this summer. And 50S, we're just about to start building the first prototype, and that'll be doing all its development work this summer as well.
And we should say as well that the building we're standing in now, this is, well, next door is where T50s come to life, but the T33, the 33 Spider, and whatever comes after that will be born in Windlesham. This is your new headquarters, the new factory. How's that coming along? How's the big grand designs?
It's funny enough, I was in the building last week, and we get, I think the first building is finished next month, and that's automotive, funny enough, and that's where 33 will be built. And we have a few months to kit it out, and we should be moving in around October time.
Excellent. And have you kitted out your new office in there? Will it have the kind of the drawing equipment or such, or is it all VR?
Well, no, Heritage, as we have in this building, Heritage will be part of that. So we'll have sales, Heritage, a nice entertainment area, customer experience centre, and of course manufacturing.
Well, we look forward to having a look round. Look forward to a sunny day. Hopefully we can get the roof off this thing. Gordon, thank you very much as always for your time.
Pleasure.
As always, it's fascinating to have a chat with Gordon about the car he's designed. But if you want to hear about how testing of the T50 fan car's been coming along, it's also worth catching up with GMA's Chief Development Driver, 3-time Indy 500 winner and all-round top bloke, Dario Franchitti. Mr. Gordon Murray, test driver and so much more besides, has joined us. I wouldn't be leaning here when this gets a bit hot. Tell me what it's like to be pushed along the road by one of these, because you're one of few people at the moment who can actually tell me.
It is spectacular, first of all. You can quote all the numbers, the horsepower, the torque, the 12,100 in T50, 11,100 in T.33, all that stuff. It's all about how it makes you feel, isn't it? And it's just, quite frankly, it's nuts. The propulsion, the revs come, the torque comes from so low down all the way through, right up to the red line. You can play with it, with the throttle. If you want to kind of cruise around, just stay off the throttle. You don't get any of the induction noise. Put it in a higher gear if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the footage and we've heard the footage of you going around the Goodwood circuit, just blasting everyone's ears out with that. So you've been, obviously that was a while ago now with T50. You've now been testing the car on the road. Can you just share with us this story you were just mentioning about trying to give Gordon a bit of a rude awakening the other night?
Yeah.
Are we okay to mention this?
Absolutely. So the other night I was coming back from Dunsfold and heading to HQ Windlesham in one of the pre-series cars after doing some filming and some bit of testing. And it was about 7:10 at night. I thought, well, Gordon will be getting home about now. And I know Gordon's house is about 2 miles from the Hogsback. So I thought, well, let's see if he can hear it. So I was in 5th, I dropped it down to 3rd, and I got up to about 9,000. Anyway, next morning I saw him, we were in a meeting, and I said, did you hear anything last night? He said, you know, I did. He said, about just after 7, I turned to Stella and said, that sounds just like our V12.
So he heard you from 2 miles away in one of his prototypes giving it the beans?
Yeah.
I mean, it does suggest to me that, yeah, if you are ever lucky enough to drive one of these cars, you're going to have to be well aware it's not just who can see you, who knows how you're behaving, it's anyone within a 20-mile radius is going to know exactly what you're up to.
Well, they'll know what you're up to, but they'll also know how you're driving it. You miss a shift, you fluff a blip on the downshift.
Oh, it's going to be embarrassing.
It's going to be embarrassing, and this car, it will call you out. It doesn't do it for you. You've got to do it yourself. Yeah,
I mean, this is what's going to be very different, I think, to a lot of the supercars that not necessarily Gordon considers rivals, but supercars we've become used to. We're now used to drift modes and 5-stage traction control and stuff that is designed to fundamentally make you feel like a superhero, and I, for one, am often very glad of it. This is going to be a lot more, it's going to have a safety assistance system, but ultimately it's going to want to take no prisoners, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely right. And you know, the traction control works really, really well. The ABS, all those systems are really good, but it doesn't drive the car for you. As my friend Joe says, this is a car that you have to drive it the way it wants to be driven. You have to drive it within its limits. It's not about how you want to drive the car, because it's not going to look after you and drive the car for you. You have to drive the car. You have to take control of it and take responsibility for it. And I think it's all the better for it.
Yeah. But having said that, that's like the racing driver perspective. And I think what's always interesting about Gordon's cars is, on the one hand, he wants them to be the purest driving machine, and on the other hand, it has to have luggage space, visibility, a decent audio system. It has to be completely usable. And I saw, knocking around on Instagram the other day, lots of shots of a T50 just bumbling around London. And I was sure that customers haven't got their cars yet. So what was the story behind why a T50 was just knocking about in Shepherd's Bush?
One of our big investors in the company said to Gordon, I'd like to take T50 for a drive. And he said, yeah, sure.
But just like round the block?
Yeah, around the block, maybe leave here, drive around, come back in an hour or something. He said, no, I want to take it for a couple of days. Okay. He said, no, I want to do 1,000 miles in it. And so he literally did 1,000 miles in 4 days. In London, stayed in London, went to visit various different sort of car emporiums, up into the Cotswolds, and just got lost for days on end. And then he would, at night, he would phone Gordon, he'd call me, he'd give us a whole debrief of everything he did. And, he became a bit of a social media sensation, didn't he?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was spotting it on Instagram thinking, oh, they're around, they're about, it's finished, it's ready, fantastic. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people got a bit of a shock when they heard it coming. Yeah, it sounds like it is ultimately about ready to go. Have you pretty much signed on the dotted line and gone, that is Dario approved, or are there any little jobs left to do?
Well, if it was up to me, you just continually develop it like a racing car. That's, but I'm so immersed in it. The test drivers, Gareth and Steve, everybody's so immersed in it. But it's a wonderful thing now, and it's ready to go into production. And the thing for us was Gordon driving it the final drive, and Gordon.
Pressure moment.
Yeah, pressure moment, because my opinion's one thing, Gareth, Steve, the development team, their opinion's one thing. But the man whose name's above the door, he has to be happy with it. He is, and it's ready to go out to customers. Yeah.
Now we look forward to driving that very soon. We should just circle back to the 33 behind us, looking a bit sort of left out. Or you talk about me. With this car being the slightly more everyday, it's easier to get in and out of a little bit. It's not quite so high on the revs. Ultimately, still a massively high-performing supercar. How will your kind of testing attitude change when you're helping set up this car as opposed to the tri-seat fan-assisted T50?
I always come at these things as a point of view of a customer. I use the experience I gained through racing and everything, but I come at it from a customer point of view, and I've now become really immersed in the whole company and start from literally the drawing board to way past car delivery. So it's been a heck of a journey. But this car, I was saying to Gordon, Spider, that's interesting. You weren't really a Spider guy.
Yeah, it's almost a bit out of character for him, isn't it? But he's explained that why he thinks it actually does fit with what he wants to create.
And he told you the difference in weight.
Oh yeah, well, negligible. He said it's so little that you don't need to retune the suspension, which I think is, saves the engineering department a big bill.
Exactly. When I walked in the other day and saw it for the first time, we were walking around it, and I said, I got a big problem. What's that? I said, well, I'm going to have one. And the problem is, I've got a T50 coming, I've got one of those coming. So either some of the cars in the garage are going to have to go, or I'm going to have to sell the house, and my wife's going to get upset with me.
The Alpine and the Suzuki Jimny are out, and the
exactly.
the GMA 3-car garage is in.
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
I think what's lovely about it is it's not only quite minimalist, but it has those. I know Gordon's obsessed with not being retro, and I do think it pulls that off. That it has that thing that the 60s cars did, where it doesn't look hyper aggressive. It doesn't say fight me, but it's also it's not plain. There's shape to it, and it's ultimately. I'm quite proud it's British as well.
Yeah,
Can I say that. Yeah, sorry everyone in the rest of the world, but it's got a British engine, it's got British design, and it's built here as well, so good for us.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, you walk that car, you're going to drive it, and then as you leave the garage or you park it up, you're going to look. You're going to want to have one last look, aren't you? And then probably another. But the driving experience, you're going to be even more connected to this just incredible V12. The air scoop right there. I cannot wait. Cannot wait to drive it. We're going to have to, if we're doing any winter testing, it won't be done in Surrey.
No, roll on the summer. It's a convertible, and keep your fingers crossed for a proper British summer this year.